Coster-Waldau, UNDP Goodwill Ambassador, and he's going to give us a keynote address, and then he's also going to take some questions from the audience. And I'm sure that a networking cocktail afterwards can wait a few moments, so we're delighted that you're here. Thank you, Nikolaj. Thank you. Oh, you can have a microphone, as you wish. Yeah.
Hello. I feel I'm terribly underdressed. I apologize. Well, it's great to be here. As you heard, I'm Nikolaj Coster-Waldau. I'm an actor. I'm also here because I'm a UNDP Goodwill Ambassador. And I'm also, well, actually, why I'm here is that I did a show. I'm doing a show called An Optimist Guide to the Planet. I'm a producer, and I'm also the host on that show. And 18 months ago, I was at the United Nations General Assembly, and I did a little interview. And right after me, Nadia did an interview, and so she overheard what I was saying, and she came up to me and said, "Why don't you come to Luxembourg and talk about that?" And I said, "Absolutely, I would love to go to Luxembourg." So that's why I'm here today. I understand you've had a wonderful, yeah. Wow. I understand you've had a wonderful, I can tell you the sun has been shining all day. But no, I'm really thrilled to be here. So when I was asked, I'm just gonna, before I get to the optimism, I'll get to that at the end. I'll just explain how I got there. In 2016, was asked if I wanted to be a Goodwill Ambassador for the UNDP, and instantly I said yes, because I'm a fan of the UN. I believe in the UN. I believe in us having a forum where we can come together and we can discuss. I believe that the history of the UN is important. The charter of the UN was built on the ruins of the Second World War, so that we didn't repeat those mistakes. I believe in a world where all countries are equal, have equal footing. Is it perfect? No, it's not. It needs reform, but that's a different story. The UN, I knew. The DP, not so much. The UNDP, United Nations Development Program, is the biggest aid agency in the UN. And I had to help them raise awareness of their work. Now, there's a built-in problem there that I didn't know about. It's that they are not allowed to take credit for their work. It makes it difficult, because they always work with local governments, and of course that makes sense. We all know politicians, they want the credit. You can't give it to the UNDP. But I did the work, and I started traveling around with the UNDP, so I have a little clip of what I did and what I am doing for the UNDP. And roll tape.
Since 2016, I've had the privilege of being a Goodwill Ambassador for the UNDP. Traveling with the UNDP and seeing firsthand the incredible work that's being done in every corner of our planet is truly inspiring. We are, for better and for worse, in this together. Going solo is simply not an option. And although the challenges we face are enormous, human innovation is unstoppable. And action is being taken, and at scale. It isn't easy. We face constant setbacks, but if we come together through international cooperation, then there is nothing we can't accomplish. There is real reason for hope and optimism.
So I thought that the message I would bring back would be an easy sell, because what I saw on those trips was it just blew me away. People under the most dire of circumstances doing incredible work, having real belief and hope for a better tomorrow. But then when I came back to do the sell, if you will, to raise the awareness, it got a little harder. And we just had some incredible breakthroughs on a global scale. When it comes to climate change, the climate action, we'd had the Paris Agreement, which was monumental. The whole world coming together, saying we want to do something about this issue. We want to curb CO2 emissions by 2030. We want to remain within the 1.5 degrees Celsius. We're not going to do that now, but we have the intention, and that is important. Now, of course, what happened then, if you remember, was that the U.S. chose a new direction. They left the Paris Accords, unfortunately. Then they rejoined, then they left again. But there became this, this fight for attention, fight for being heard. So some of the climate communication became more and more extreme. We all said, well, like, listen to the science, please listen to the science. But we also made mistakes when using science in the wrong way, in my opinion, where we would go out and say, listen, if we don't take action now, the ice cap in Greenland's gonna melt and the ocean's gonna rise 7 meters, which is correct. But what we didn't say was that even the worst case scenarios, it would take between 600 and 1,000 years. It is an important thing that we should have mentioned. So I was like, we can't do this doom and gloom because it kind of pushes people away. This whole us and them, it just creates division. You know, you can't have people constantly being told that, listen, if you eat red meat, you're a bad person. If you don't go electric, you're a bad person. If you go on a holiday with your family on a plane, I mean, it became too much. So then suddenly if someone says, hey, look over here, I can tell you one thing, it's just a hoax. That suddenly becomes very attractive. Anyway, I was very lucky. I wanted to tell a story about hope, about possibility, but I found it very difficult for us at the UNDP to break through. And it wasn't anyone's fault at the UNDP, it's just a difficult sell, unfortunately. But I got contacted by a producer in Toronto who said, do you want to do something? And we came up with An Optimist Guide to the Planet. Bloomberg jumped aboard. And what is so amazing with that was that, you know that thing they say, we're killing the planet, or we have to save the planet. For me, the planet's gonna be fine, by the way. The planet's gonna be, it's been around for billions of years, it's gonna be here after we're gone. What we have to focus on is each other. It's us, human beings. Human beings, by far my favorite species on this planet. I couldn't live without human beings. We are incredible. I mean, we are just incredible. If we can think it, if we can imagine it, we can build it. We also idiots, I agree, we all know that. We do really stupid things, but I always like to say, if you think back to the last week in your life, and just try to imagine all the people you met, everywhere, like we've walked through the buses and the trains and the planes, wherever, how many real assholes have you met? Right? There might have been one or two, but most people are really good people, and we all want the same thing. And what I found when I traveled the world with An Optimist Guide and with the UNDP is that we're so much, everything connects us. So, I mean, yes, our life circumstances are different, but we all want the same thing. We want love, we want to be loved, we want to give love, we want to have dignity, we want to have purpose in our lives, and that's what we have to help each other achieve. We have to stop the division because it leads nowhere. So anyway, we're doing this show. We're setting out this season, and I take off, and I'm going to give you a couple of examples of the stories and why I think there's reason for optimism and why I believe in us. I believe in you. It's that the first idea I had this. I wanted to go to just talk about optimism. I wanted to go to Chernobyl. The reason was I heard that because of the nuclear disaster, it's too dangerous for humans to go, and I heard that nature flourished. So I had this idea, wow, that's a great story. You know, maybe nature is better off without humans. If nature could choose, would they prefer a nuclear disaster over humans? That's interesting. Now, we couldn't go to Ukraine because of the horrific invasion by Russia. So we went to Fukushima in Japan. And by the way, if ever there's a natural disaster and need cleaning up, you have to call the Japanese. I mean, that is incredible what these guys can do. I mean, all the topsoil and all the fields, it's amazing. But of course, in the forests, they couldn't clean up the soil, so it's still contaminated. We met a scientist in a forest. We put on the hazmat suits, we went in, and I was so convinced I was gonna get a scoop of a little trailer moment. I had the question ready for the scientist. We went out, we found these cameras, wildlife cameras, where he was was shooting these animals that usually didn't go to this place, but they had arrived now. And I said, so, if you were nature, would you then, and you had to choose between humans or nuclear disaster, what would you pick? And I was expecting him to give me my answer, because I thought it was such a cool thing. And he said, he was such a scientist, so annoying. He said, your question doesn't make any sense. I said, how dare you? No, I didn't. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, we are nature. We are part of the ecosystem. You cannot, I mean, yes, you can take us out, and it will benefit some animals and plants, but it won't benefit others. And I said, what do you mean? Well, we are the apex predator. So you take us out, some of the other big predators will come in. But that's not good for the prey. So little mice, they're gonna get eaten now, quickly. They could kind of cover, I mean, and there was just something about what he said, it really stuck with me, because I thought it was a beautiful, for me, it was a beautiful moment, and it gave me some insight. We are nature, we are the planet. We have to take care of each other, because we are amazing. And then solutions, because this is a show we do about solutions all over the world. And it just blows my mind all the time when you travel. I was just in India. We did a story. Oh, is that a time that's running down? I have no idea how long I've been talking. So just shout me off if it's if I'm talking too long. It just said 003, and I was like, oh. No, I'll just give you. I won't be long now. I'll give you a couple of. I was in India, just to give you some examples about surprise and about solutions, about why humans are incredible. This was at the Ganges River, and I met a gentleman who'd come up with this idea for a company. The Ganges, of course, is a holy river. It has it's believed to have supernatural properties, so people bathe and they swim in it. It's also known to be the second most polluted river in the world. So this gentleman was standing with a friend from overseas, and this friend said, why don't you do something about it? And he was like, what do you mean? Well, you can clean it up. And he's like, I can't clean it up. But then it stuck in his mind. So he started this company called Fool, which is very simple. And I heard about it when I read I heard, I was like, okay, how much can that do? It's basically, in India, they have temples on every street. There's so many temples, and every day people come and worship, and they bring flowers. And these flowers sometimes are scented, and then because they're holy, they've been in the temple, you're not allowed to just throw them out. You can only throw them one place, and that's in the Ganges River. So he collects all this floral waste, and then he turns that into incense. So it goes back into the temple. It's a very sweet thing. I thought, that's sweet. How much floral waste? In this one town, it was 30 tons a day. Incredible. And suddenly, it actually has an impact. And he created a factory. I went to see the factory. It's a big operation. It's now already, in a few years, become the most sought-after incense in India. He also hired these women who, he said, they are the best workers. They are always on time. It was tricky in the beginning because they are from a caste that usually are cleaning the gutters, the toilets, the sewer. And they live literally off the beaten track. For me to hire them, they needed an address. So I had to give them my address at the factory. They also needed an account. They couldn't read or write, so we built a school so they can learn to read and write. I met these women, and it was just incredible because they've been able to break this social cycle and put their kids to school and change the whole narrative of those families, which was so inspiring. Now, then he showed me another thing. He said, oh, we discovered another thing with this floral waste. It was really cool. I said, what is it? Come. And he went into this lab, and he said, one day, one of our guys looked at this pile of floral waste, and he saw this white stuff on top of it, and it's fungi. And instead of just saying, oh, that's some fungi, he was like, let me see what that can do. And he was inspired, and he started thinking, wait, maybe we can do something about this. 2 years later, they're making what they call fleather, which is, yes, floral leather. And then they say, and look, here, we have a pair of shoes for you. I put on some shoes, they're beautiful leather. And they say, we've already made a deal with major fashion houses in Europe. We're announcing it this spring, which is now. And that was just one guy doing that very human thing that I don't know if AI can do, but maybe, but being curious and being inspired and going, I wonder what that is. I wonder what we can do about this. And it's just, I mean, if that doesn't give you hope, I mean, we are incredible. One more story, and then we'll show you a little clip. And this is the moment where, I mean, I'm 55. I'm still pretending I don't need my glasses. It's pathetic. Pathetic is what it is. Just give me a sec. Oh yes. Oh yes. I mean, you have to watch Optimist Guide to the Planet because there's a lot of stories. We have all the good stuff, the energy, the hydrogen, the power to TX, the mini nuclear, the recycling. What we discovered this year is also the fact that there is no such thing as waste or trash. Everything is resources that we might not have figured out a way to use it yet, but we will. And the last story I want to tell you about is just to go back to this thing about why bother? Like sometimes people go, why? I mean, this thing about climate change and all this, what's the point? Why? We can't do anything about it anyway. I mean, nature is going to take care of it. All these things that you hear. Or why is it important to better the lives for others? Why is inequality a problem? Well, I was in Peru and we did a story in Lima, in the hills outside of Lima, at the top, where the poorest of the poor lived, and so it was off of the grid. So they didn't have any running water, so they had to truck in water, and of course it was 16 times more expensive than the water in the houses. And what they'd done was this NGO had built up, maybe you've seen it, these fog nets on the hills, because you have the very dry air hitting the moist air from the Pacific, so there's always this constant fog sitting over these hills, these mountains. And they can capture the dew, and then that way they capture enough water to water their gardens and grow their crops. And it's beautiful, it's very visual, it's very cool. While we're doing that story, you walk around in mud everywhere because it's so wet, even though there's no rain. I meet these 3 girls. And there's these 3, they're very sweet, like I think 5, 8, and 12. They knew that something was happening that day, so they had the good clothes, the nice sneakers, they were really sweet. I don't speak Spanish, but I had my little phone so I could translate and start talking to them. And they had their little dog with them. And I say, so what do you want to do? What do you want to do when you grow up? And then the oldest, the youngest, they were like, I don't know. But the older was like, well, she had her little sketchbook. She said, I want to be an artist or I want to be a police officer. I said, okay. And well, if you could change anything in your lives, what would that be? And they all said, the 2 older ones, they said, well, we would like to have a road and not just this dirt road, because when we go to walk to school, they have to walk all the way down. It's just like a mile down this muddy road. They say our shoes get ruined. Makes sense. And then we like you, not you, but we like not to have any crime, because we see a lot of crime, a lot of violence. And I said, oh, so that's why you want to be a cop? Yeah, I want to make sure that there's not so many bad people in the world. I said, great. But what was exciting, not exciting, it was, of course, I was very moved by it, because I have 2 daughters myself, and you look at that, you go, whew, the odds are against these kids. That's not fair. But they had absolute belief in tomorrow. They believed that they had a bright future. They were going to do it, and I'm sure they will. And I'm just thinking, because I know you guys are going to be here tomorrow, and I know Ukraine is on the agenda tomorrow. And that's also people we don't know living. A lot of parents that are working, that giving up their lives for their kids and their grandkids. And that's why it is important. It's also important for you guys to support these things, raise each other up, to still, even though it's not in a big part of the world, you can no longer talk about climate change. It's no longer a loud language. It is real. We have to deal with these things. And we have to help each other all over the world. Because if I want to really enjoy my big fat meal, it's difficult if I look across and I see someone starving. And we have to insist on empathy. And that's... Thank you for staying, by the way. And finally, I'm just going to show you, and I'm not trying to, my point is, there is hope. I am an optimist. It's difficult sometimes. I call a show An Optimist Guide to the Planet. And, you're an optimist because I fundamentally believe in human beings. I believe that, we are better than we might think we are. And we've done, if you look back, what we've achieved over the last 50, 100 years is incredible. We have a few challenges right now, but we'll get through it. Keep up the good work. And here's a little trailer of An Optimist Guide to the Planet. Run the clip.
Wow. Despite ever-growing challenges, I believe in the power of community.
That is never going to be in the cut.
Our futures and our planet.
This glacier has shrunk almost by half.
All the materials in the world that we make, 90% of it ends up in some form of waste stream.
Who's going to protect this? And say, why not us?
Wow.
Es el árbol más grande que existe en Amazonía. Todo el crisis también es una oportunidad.
The work that you're doing is not just about cleaning up waste. This changes the narrative.
We turn concrete into a material that can store CO2 forever.
We're not just playing around. We are really doing this. When lake opens up with a full fresh water,
Yes.
you become emotional.
How many times have you had a camera crew film you when you're in a sauna?
I'd like to see society move from a place of survival to a place of thriving.
I think the world is cynical enough as it is, so optimism is the only way forward.
My name is Nikolaj Coster-Waldau, and this is An Optimist's Guide to the Planet.